On this week's show, we're discussing all the fallout from the Fallout, Far Cry 7, protagonist revealed, all the news from this week's Nintendo Indie Showcase, and the future of Baldur's Gate without Larian. All that and much, much more on this week's GamerGuild Podcast. Good game, everyone, and welcome back to the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show where we round up all of the week's gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and also available up there in the digital clouds on your podcast platform of choice. We have a great show lined up for you this week, and I'm joined to talk about all that with my fellow co-host, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Welcome back. Of course, busy week. Lots of news to talk about. It is a very TV-centric episode this week. I realised going through the doc, it was like animes announced, TV shows announced, spin-offs, all of that. But it's been a great week for gaming. It's been a great week for just things in general. I'm feeling good. The sun's out. Spring is very much sprung on us now. Usually you don't get much time for video games, but not when you're nerds like us, Richie. We stay out of the sun, all pasty white, and play these games.
I was out in the sun a bit over the weekend.
Oh, don't show off your extracurricular activities outside.
I had to do some adulting. Some
adulting out in the open air. Don't forget, folks, if you haven't done so already, do give us a like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you're kept in the loop with all the great content we do here on the show, like our live streams, Let's Plays, First Looks, and all that video content for you on the channel. And you're kept in the loop by ringing that bell. It's very, very important to us. It helps us grow. It helps us find new people. This past week, we jumped in and checked out Fallout 76 using the power of Xbox Cloud Gaming for your viewing pleasure. Richie, we jumped in with a couple of community members. I've never played a Fallout game before, but we did about 2.5 hours of Fallout 76. And what were your vibes after checking it out? Because you've played Fallout 4 through. Yeah. Where'd 76 hit you?
Yeah, so my plan is I had started Fallout 4 again. However, after jumping into Fallout 76 and understanding a bit more about that game, I'm actually inclined to just switch to Fallout 76 and just start playing that, because it is largely just another Fallout game that just happens to be online multiplayer. Yeah, the downside I found from the multiplayer, the only real I think is a biggie, to be honest. We sat at the same time in a group. My quests weren't progressing when yours were, even though and I couldn't talk to quest givers to progress them. That to me is a problem.
Yeah, most games kind of pull people together, don't they, and have like a reset moment. Like when we were in the building together, it would have like reset our game plays essentially, so we both benefit.
I get because it's meant to be more of a drop-in, drop-out multiplayer rather than you play this strictly side-by-side the entire time. But if we still have the same quest logs at the same stage, you progressing it should progress it for me as well. That it just feels like a bit of an oversight that I think Bethesda should work on.
Yeah, if you're going to play for like 4 or 5 hours and then that 4 or 5 hours means nothing to you, it's almost like...
Effectively, I'm at square one. I'm like, in terms of my quest progression.
Yeah.
In Fallout 76, even though I've got like maybe 3 hours of gameplay.
Yeah, that is an issue for online components.
But that is just a slight caveat I just wanted to get out there to when talking about the multiplayer side. I'm going to more approach this as a single-player game. That maybe people could join me by switching over to PlayStation.
Yeah.
The main reason I'm switching over to PlayStation is I had to check and I already have it purchased. So it must have been a PlayStation Plus game in the past or something.
It was actually free last week as well.
Yeah, at some point I've claimed it or bought it on the sale or something. So I'm switching over to PlayStation largely because my girlfriend's looking to play it and she doesn't have an Xbox.
There you go. Makes sense.
And because I was planning on re-rolling the character anyway. And it means that if we decide to do any more streams with the community, I can play on Xbox, take up exactly where I left off with you. And then I've got a PlayStation save completely separate.
Brilliant. Well, it sounds like you're set up to go. My plan is for Fallout 4 with the next-gen update coming. Having never played them before, it makes sense that I jump into the most recent one that isn't multiplayer. because it's getting the next gen update as well. I've finished the series now, so that's all done. Absolutely loved it. Definitely, again, triple recommend it. Me and the wife finished it. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I was kind of like just hankering for more come the end of it. So I guess the game is the next best thing. If not, it's the best thing to start off with.
Well, that's why I jumped into Fallout 4, but then Fallout 76, when it not being so much of a multiplayer game, it's more of a single player game that can be played multiplayer. Mm-hmm. That's why I thought, well, I'll go play new Fallout rather than rehashing Fallout I've already played.
Yeah.
I will probably jump into the update when it drops, just out of curiosity.
See what it's like.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to sink its teeth into me. I think I will probably focus on 76 for a bit.
Brilliant. I'll keeping in like the Fallout world because it's going to be a big chunk of the show. Apologies for any non-Fallout fans there. I don't know how you could not be a fan of Fallout, really. There's like something.
In the comments if you like Fallout Boy.
Fallout Boy. That was my character's name in our stream this week.
Yeah.
It was like, come up with a name. I was like, think of a pun. Fallout.
Sugar, we're going down.
Boy. We are indeed. So I've been playing, like, not randomly, I guess, very related, but Fallout Shelter. That was very well timed.
Was that you?
Yeah, just on there. So Fallout Shelter, I've been chipping away, getting all my little things because I played it when it came out back in the day, but like obviously with no real link to Fallout, just the fact that it's a game and it's related to video games, but it's on mobile for a change. So I've just been digging in. I've got my vault. Plays just as easy as I expected. I remember it again. There's a couple of additions that I thought they would have maybe tweaked it over the years, but it's something that's given me a little Fallout fix while I wait for the next gen update, and maybe I can like do it on the move. So it's hit that kind of grindy phase already after like a few hours in, but if it just gives me that little hit of dopamine that links into the show for the next couple of weeks, and then I'll inevitably fade out of it. Go for it. So you've been playing it?
I started playing, but just as something to just mess around with on my lunch breaks at work. But I'm not going. That's the only time I really would ever think about playing a multiplayer mobile game.
Yeah,
and even then, I only get usually half an hour for my lunch break.
Yeah,
so by the time we've had food, and sometimes I'm having conversations with my colleagues, so it's like, yeah.
My wife must be thinking like every 15 minutes or something, she could just hear in the other room or something, diddle as I claim.
You should get it on PC, so while you're working on the second monitor, you just have it.
Just have it.
You sat there in the meeting, just go click, 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 click. I've got my resources.
That's bad for productivity, and the Vault Dwellers do not appreciate lack of productivity. That's one of the few things I've been playing this week. Speaking of what we've been playing, how about you, Richie? You said you were kind of burning out on Final Fantasy last week. Have we hit that point? You jumped over to something new yet, other than Fallout?
We've hit that point where I give my girlfriend back a Final Fantasy Rebirth, and because she watched me play the entire story, she's already burnt out without actually playing the game herself, and traded it back in.
Wow, done.
Yeah, she traded it back in and bought herself a second PlayStation controller.
Fair enough.
She bought the. Have you seen the silver one?
No.
The silver DualShock. That's what she bought.
Look good.
It does. It looks really good.
Yeah,
much better than the white ones.
The metallic range are really good. Like I love my red, like metallic-y red one, but I've seen the blue one. I think it's Cosmic Blue, and there's something that the pictures don't really do them justice. Like in person, they're absolutely immaculate.
I hate the two-tone white and black, but the two-tone, like that red one you just showed to camera audio listeners, pull up a photo, looks really good with the black accents.
Yeah, works a little
I just
bit
don't
nicer.
like that white-black combo. It's the same with the console itself, but so completely burnt out on Final Fantasy. I do have Crisis Core that I want to go into at some point, but I don't know when. It's actually behind me.
Crisis
I'm actually on my piano, of all places. But we've been playing Lego Marvel Superheroes.
Ah, yes, you mentioned.
We're getting near the end of the story now. Having good fun with that, actually.
Yeah,
my first real Lego game that I've actually put any time into.
Yeah.
But again, it's a nice co-op game. She's played it to death. She's had the platinum before, so it's like, but it's nice to jump in and play with her. Yeah. And last night, we started a way out.
Oh yeah, the Joseph Fares game.
Yeah. So we're just thinking of like, what do we want to do tonight? Let's play some games. We'd already played a bit of Lego earlier in the days. Like, want something a bit more narrative kind of thing. It's like, what? And it's like, what about like something like A Way Out, or what's It Takes Two? Yeah. We're going to start with A Way Out and then probably do It Takes Two after.
Yeah. Me and the wife had loads of fun with It Takes Two.
Yeah, we are like having really good fun with A Way Out. So
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, interesting how now there's like a whole other, I guess, genre of games where the co-op element comes back into it. Because that's why I've always loved the Lego games. Like my history was playing them with my brother, just like always, just like drop in, drop out, destroy some bricks, do some silly puzzles and stuff, and like progress the story along. Because they're all inherently tied to like an IP that you're usually quite fond of, it just ticks it really, really well. So that's why after my rant the other week about Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, I'm hoping the next big one to tackle is like the Middle Earth saga almost.
Yeah, I'll probably be playing a lot of them because she's a big fan of them, and I'm enjoying them. It's like a very when you just want something casual, just to play for a few hours here and there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we tend to play the stories together, and then she goes back and does some like the cleanup and the open worldy stuff.
Yeah,
which I didn't realize how open world Lego games were.
They got to that point. Yeah, the originals aren't necessarily; they're quite linear.
See, that's my memory of them. I remember them being quite linear, and then there's like, oh no, actually, just New York. You can just drop into you can literally skydive into New York.
Yeah, I'd recommend
flying sucks so.
Yeah,
in that game.
Yeah, it's
so bad, and the camera, like, I see what they're doing with like with the split screen, and like half the time, sometimes you're in a small area, and I'll do like a split screen things. Like, you don't need to do that. You could just show the whole thing by zooming out a little bit.
Yeah, split screen's got its problems. If there's
I've heard in there some of the new ones, it's a lot better though.
Yeah, if I was going to recommend one, I'd say the Jurassic World ones are really good. It kind of gives you all like Isla New, like the 5 deaths, all the islands and stuff, and you play through all the movies up until I think it's obviously missing the last one because of the time it came out. But yeah, if you're enjoying it, like again, Jurassic Park story is fantastic. So driving around in the Jeep and seeing the dinosaurs in Lego form and playing the moments of the movies, it's quite fun.
I think we're looking either like maybe Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, or Avengers next. I mean, as IP goes,
that's pretty decent. Just don't do the Hobbit. Don't do the Hobbit because they didn't finish it. Well, if you need any of them, I've got them all on disc. So
I think she's got most of them downloaded, but I'll let you know.
Brilliant. What have I been playing? I think I told you on the Thursday stream. I got the platinum for Evil West. So I got that ground out the evil mode, which was testing my patience at times. Certainly, it wasn't so much the combat. Like, I was pretty much nailed down with the boss fights moves. The problem is it's between like switching weapons and stuff is quite slow in the game. So in the easier modes, it doesn't hamper you too much. But when you're in like evil difficulty, where every hit takes like nearly all of your health off, that time between I've run out of ammo for this gun, so I'm going to switch out to my secondary weapon, and in that time you're getting hit. It was like, damn it, and I kept dying at the time. But then, like most like games, like once you got more in the rhythm, I was dodging like second nature without even thinking. I was blocking just because I knew what was coming up next. And thankfully, during the boss fights, when they have their 1, 2, 3 phases, if you got past one phase and died, it restarts you on the second phase, not right at the beginning. It was like, that was a godsend, because I would have just threw the controller down and went, I'm out. But I've got the platinum trophy for Evil West, so that's my 139th now.
I have no idea
near that 140.
No, I haven't even broke 50, probably.
Well, my pace has slowed down since having a child, so I think I'm on like 4 for this year. But I feel like I'm being more particular about which ones I do play. It's like, when I look back at my curated list of platinums, like they're all like absolute amazing games. There's no like weak ones in there.
To be fair, you have a child now, so you have less time to just go trophy hunting.
I'm doing the trophy hunting of life in general. Yeah. And that's what we're here to talk about today, everyone. Life, the news, gather us together. If you want to talk about that kind of stuff, we do have a social Discord channel. Link is in the description below on this video or from this podcast if you're listening on audio feeds. Join us, check us out. There's plenty of like-minded gamers over there in our Discord server, talk about all things video games and everything else in between for us fellow humans out there. We also have a merchandise store if you are looking to get in with some Gamer Guild swag. It's available out there. T-shirts, hats, collars, everything like that, whatever you want. I also refer to collars and dog bandanas for some reason. It's probably like one of the least things you would purchase. Let's say cups, mugs, t-shirts. One of the guys in our Discord server just bought the sports top. Again, it's getting hot. You're trying to get fit, exercise. It's very nice aerated material. You saw me wear a football once. Looks cool. Check it out. But we're here to talk about the news, Richie, and we can only do that if you would introduce us to the
graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka
the news. And the news, as always, brought to you by our wonderful guild heroes, the fantastic folks who support the channel that extra little bit more. From as little as 99p, you get early access to this very show, stickers and badges next to your name, and special content that drops as and when we make it. You're all awesome. Thank you very much for your support, as always. It keeps the lights on, as they say. Right, Richie. Story number 1. we had this week a Nintendo Indie World Showcase, which revealed many, many smaller titles. This is kind of something Nintendo tend to do on like a biannual basis. They kind of get together all of their little smaller titles and put them out there. And I always think of the Nintendo Switch almost as an indie machine in a way, because I think that's how it got its early flowers. Was it came with its big hitters like Zelda and Mario, but then it very much padded it out with smaller cartoony style indie vibe titles,
the
because
physical
it works.
format of the console, especially for like side scroller indie stuff, I think it's perfect for anything that you might want to play on the move, like smaller things. If you want a big cinematic experience, the Switch definitely isn't the best place to play something like that. Even for something like Zelda, well, it's the only place you can play it, but for the indie stuff where they need less power from the console and you just want to sit there with a thing in your hand on the couch or at work or even in bed on the loo, wherever you like to play your games, it's brilliant form factor. So I think that's why indie devs were so attracted to it.
Yeah, really works. And it was one of them typical things, just a short 20-minute video with the disembodied voice of Nintendo talking over you, going, "Welcome to the Nintendo World Showcase." You get the click, and then it goes straight into just a bunch of trailers talking about it. We won't go through the list entirely. I was wondering if there's anything in particular that stood out for you, Richie, from this list. There's your typical mix of stuff that doesn't interest a lot of people, but there's always one that you go like, "Ooh, that looks awesome."
Yeah, I'm going to caveat this with I didn't have time, unfortunately, over the weekend because of spending time with family to actually sit down and watch the showcase a la carte. So I've had to just jump around. But I think one that I think did jump out to me was actually Europa. So Europa, it's from Helder Pinto, Novadus Entertainment, and Future Friends Games 2024. And the blurb is, on the moon Europa, an android named Z sets out in search of answers behind the mystery of a fallen civilization. Always interesting stuff. In this 3D action platformer, use Z's Zephyr jetpack to glide, fly, boost across breathtaking landscapes full of lakes, meadows, and mountains. But it's kind of got that kind of, like Disney, Studio Ghibli, watercolor aesthetic. So I thought it just looks like quite pretty.
Yeah, I'm getting like Immortals Phoenix Rising vibes from it, with like the more cartoon. It's obviously a bit more anime, like you said, but the color palette and the way it almost looks like quite Greek.
It looks like it's hand drawn rather than CG. It is CG probably, but it looks more hand drawn rather than CG generated characters, and I think it just looks like really quite pretty. It's like kind of like a Ni no Kuni kind of art style.
Yeah, no, it does. It looks gorgeous.
Yeah,
and the traversal looks fun.
That's what immediately stood out to me, and it's like, yeah, it's an indie game. It's going to be largely just about traversing around, but it looks like it's got some action things. But
looks quite big really in scope, actually. Like, it's weird because we say indie games now, and indie games, thanks to like Unreal Engine and other stuff, it's like there can be so much more. But yeah, the art style's gorgeous.
But yeah, that's the main thing that kind of jumped out at me was the art style, and that looks really interesting. Because I think there's a lot of overuse since like things like Breath of the Wild and Fortnite. Everything just largely is, especially that's aimed at younger audience, seems to just be copied one of them too, or some mix of them.
Yeah,
where to go back to like a very kind of traditional like hand drawn animation style, I think just does give that something that stands out. That looks like 2D hand drawn stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I think one of the ones for me, like that looks great. Actually, it hadn't caught my eye until now you said it.
Yeah.
One that I think we're all probably familiar with here on the channel is SteamWorld. Just purely because I think we played it a little bit on Stadia. I know Tom was a big fan back in the day. We've had like all these SteamWorlds dig, but yeah, SteamWorld Heist 2 had a reveal, which I think this is now the second in that spin-off kind of like secondary series. So this is the long-awaited sequel, apparently adds naval combat into it as well. Not that as I really said I needed naval combat in my SteamWorld type games. But yeah, if you've not played it, this is more of like a 2D XCOM style rather than your typical SteamWorld dig, where it was more like Spelunky. You dig down Metroidvania style into the underground and find stuff. This seems to have expanded it massively beyond what SteamWorld traditionally would be.
You know what the combat almost remind me of a bit? Worms.
Yeah, I can see that. It's definitely
that
got
10-based 2D side scroller, because sometimes you can see like in the trailer bouncing like shots around.
Yeah.
Like, we used to do with the bazooka, try and chime it with the wind to curve around with worms.
Incoming! Yeah.
But yeah, it looks interesting.
Yeah, and it's obviously done well enough to garner a sequel, SteamWorld Heist, not Dig. I'm sure we'll probably do another Dig. We're just going to keep making it. But it's that like steampunk aesthetic that just appeals, I think, so much to gamers alike. But yeah, it looks really good for that one. Any other ones for you jump out?
I think they were the main ones. We have things like Another Crab's Treasure, where you play as a crab.
Yeah, there's a few things with indie games that I think that you need to catch people's attention. It's like, one, visually, what it looks like, and then two, I think you need a catchy name. So it's like you're either going to take yourself too seriously, like you're not at all. I think Another Crab's Treasure just looks fun.
Duck Detective: The Secret Salami could be potentially hilarious.
Yeah, you've got me with the name already.
It's clearly not taking itself too credit. I think Shim was one where it's a 3D platformer that blends elements of light and shadow, and you can see your character like bouncing, almost like platforming between the shadows cast by objects in the world to traverse. So there's really some interesting things. There's a couple of stuff that did come across as they're probably fantastic games, but feel almost, oh yeah, that's a Metroid clone, that's a Mega Man clone, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you tend to get that with a game, like, as you said, inherently like 2D side-scroller indie titles, that they are limited still, even though we've just gushed about Unreal and what they can do with it. I think the majority start off with, like, I can go left, right, up and down. How can I make this unique to what's came before it? They
don't look like bad games, but it's hard to describe what they're doing from what I've seen, separate to, say, like something like what a Mega Man has offered.
Yeah. And there's a lot of Mega Mans out there.
Yeah. Like Cat Quest 3. Cat Quest has got a small cult following, so it's nice to see that continue.
Yeah, I've got a few of our friends really like the Cat Quest series, but it's one of that I think I look at it like, yeah, it looks fun, but there's something about the aesthetic that doesn't appeal to me.
There's a few people who've recommended it to me that it's a game that I would probably enjoy, with it being like an action. I like my action RPGs, but with it being quite a cutesy one, like low impact kind of thing. But one day I might look into them.
Yeah, explore the Caribbean in Cat Quest. It's got that Monster Boy vibe for me, where it's got that fun aesthetic. Yeah, like I said, you're interacting with characters from around the world. But again, I think it started off as like a tongue-in-cheek joke satire view on things, and then it did so well that we got a sequel, and then now, like, credit to the devs, they've managed to get like 3 cat games called Cat Quest managed to make it out.
Lorelei and the Laser Eyes.
Yeah, that one's getting a lot of hype around it. What's that one about?
So Lorelei and the Laser Eyes, it's from Annapurna Interactive, which is probably one of the reasons people are interested. They've got a track record. It's a non-linear puzzle game from the Sayonara Wild Hearts team, where a woman's summoned to participate in a project in an old hotel somewhere in Central Europe, and becomes embroiled in a game of increasingly nightmarish, surrealist visions. But it seems that, when like almost like Schindler's List, where everything's black and white apart from things that are very vividly red.
Oh right, yes, it's
doing that with like pink. So it's like it's black and white, but there's occasionally these bright flashes of pink, which I think that's quite eye-catching.
Yeah, the name doesn't really go with what the style of gameplay is. It looks like a murder detective thing, but
you play as Scott Summers.
yeah, it looks like it with pink laser eyes instead. But yeah, it's interesting. You're totally right. Like Sayonara Wild Hearts was like right up there with a lot of people's indie game of the year. And as you said with Annapurna, they always pick out the gems. Like they always seem to see something as a publishing arm that like gets these absolute little beauties in there. It looks like something a bit different as well. I think if you're into puzzle solving and you like a bit of conspiracy maybe with like a tinge of horror, it's definitely got that vibe attached to it. Yeah, it's a good shout. May 16th as well. So a lot of things I think at the showcase, you're not going to be expected to wait too long for them, which is always a good one. One that stood out for me as we kind of wrap up on this section was a game called Bzzzt, or BZZZT. It's been out for some time, but as with most indie games, you can only really describe them almost by referencing other games. This reminds me of The Messenger.
Oh yeah, it's got a bit of a Celeste.
Celeste. Yeah, that's the game.
Yeah, it's that kind of platforming.
Mm-hmm.
Although, yeah, maybe something like The Messenger is closer. I just noticed like the art style does remind me a bit of Celeste for the pixel art and the way you shoot across the map from the traversal.
Yeah.
It's almost got like a bit of Super Meat Boy kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
But more sci-fi.
Yeah. So interesting how as you describe it, it's so easy to just go, it looks like this, it looks like that, it looks like this.
We're a podcast. Like, I mean, video viewers have probably got the trailer up, seeing it right now. But for those audio, I try to grab games to kind of go, it's like this, but with this, just trying to paint the picture.
You can piece together. But yeah, that was it for me. Celeste, I think, is the best visual description of it. But it's already been out for a while on Steam. But yeah, it's become a tiny ZX8000 robot and begin your journey through a beautiful pixel art world inspired by the game's iconic platformer genre. Follow a surprising story, upgrade your skills, beat challenging levels, and compete with other players to do the fastest speedrun. But yeah, it looks like just a fun little thing in and amongst that. If there's any other games that were at the showcase that you, the audience out there, caught, if it's maybe Duck Detective, The Secret Salami, or Steamwell Heist, let us know below what your favourite pick was and what's on your radar. Is there any we've blatantly missed and you're thinking, hey, Chris, Richie, you've not mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What the hell?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. That's probably one we didn't bring up, but to be honest, I didn't think it looked that particularly interesting.
Yeah, it looks like a lesser type game.
Yeah, it's probably great fun, and if you're into the Turtles, you're probably going to have a good time, but it didn't really jump out as someone who doesn't really have any nostalgia for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It looks like Marvel's Ultimate Alliance, but for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which again could be great. I'm like you, kind of it's a blind spot in my childhood. I have like a deep appreciation of it from afar, but it's one of them where as soon as you get the cutscenes and it's just a static image with a text box, it's like, right, I know what the budget was for this game. The one I am keen on, though, I think we spoke about it on the show sometime, it's not Rise of the Ronin, it's something like The Last Ronin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where apparently all the other turtles have been murdered, and one of them is left, and he basically takes on all of the weapons of his fellow turtles and goes out there to basically seek vengeance on whoever killed him. And it's a dark, gritty, like the comic book series is apparently like one of the best, but it's like ultra dark and non-kid friendly. And they're making a game out of it in the guise of like the Arkham series, which I'm like, right, that could be awesome.
Was there like a 90s TV show I probably watched at some point? Because I've got in my head a theme tune that went Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Heroes in a Half Shell, Turtle Power.
Yeah, that's again, I didn't watch it, but I'd seen enough.
I'm sure like that's lodged in my brain. Just that's all I remember of it. I don't remember anything about the show. Yeah. But
I remember the movie or something because of like the scary live action faces with the eyes and the everything moving. Like again, for what it was actually not bad, but it was like verging on like Super Mario's movie levels. But as I said, a lot of these games, they're all coming out imminently, like this summer. So that's what Nintendo tend to do. They don't tease for too long. We know it's coming out soon. So again, let us know in the comments below what you're interested in.
Coming to other platforms as well, but I'm sure I've seen one or two of these come to Xbox as well, but I don't have a list in front of me for that.
Like I said, I think most indie games fit best on Switch, but they come out to everything. Speaking of making people wait a long, long time for things, Ubisoft are quite good at that. Talking to you, Skull and Bones. The Far Cry series, it's a long-running series. It's been on for many, many years now. It's got many iterations, and usually we get like an interstitial game in between the large entries, and we've known for some time after 6 wrapped up a few years back now, the rumour is we're going to expect some kind of like middle iteration to come. Off the back of that though, we've got leaks this week that Far Cry 7 has been rumoured by a successful Twitter leaker going by the name of Jonathan with a 0 in his name. He's in the past leaked a lot of Ubisoft stuff around like Assassin's Creed Mirage and some other things, so he's a semi-reliable source, we'll say. And I thought I'll add it into the news this week because it makes for some quite interesting reading. The rumour is that Cillian Murphy of Oppenheimer fame and Peaky Blinders fame is going to be the main antagonist in the next Far Cry 7 series. We actually covered on the show quite a while back that Far Cry 7 is going to do something a little bit different, where it's not going to have a definitive like linear story, but it's going to have a scenario where a family's kidnapped by the antagonist, and you as the protagonist has a 72-hour countdown in game, which actually equates to about 24 hours of real time to basically go out and do what you need to do to rescue the hostages, save the world, that kind of, like the typical like superhero thing. But yeah, with Cillian Murphy as the antagonist, Far Cry traditionally picks a main one. We know it was Giancarlo Esposito for Far Cry 6, and in the past it's been like Pagan Main and stuff, and Vass from Far Cry 3. That's like their main focus, almost like the villain's the main character in the series, and you as a silent protagonist is kind of just there for the ride. And I was just kind of wondering, with this rumour, Far Cry 7, what your take would be, Richie, because you've got a loose relationship with Far Cry.
Yeah, I like Far Cry, and I think I'm sure I said before when we talked about Far Cry last time when the news was leaked that they were doing something a bit different, that I'm all for Ubisoft ripping up the formula a bit. Not throwing out everything that made the games great, but changing things up because the things got a bit stale. I think that was a criticism of both 5 and 6, where it's like, oh yeah, it's just more Far Cry. To do something interesting with the gameplay, I've always been that. I'm interested in Ubisoft taking a few risks in that thing. Cillian Murphy, fantastic actor, Scarecrow in Christopher Nolan things. So we know he can do an absolute deranged bad guy.
Yeah, that's cool. I didn't think that as far as the villain goes.
Yeah, but for me, in terms of that, that's the extent of that news of him being leaked. As it's like, okay, fantastic actor. I know you do a good job. Now tell me more about the game. Because we're not knowing more about what his character's going to be, his portrayal or anything. It's just the actor linked to it. It's like, yeah. I think this potentially could be a fantastic casting.
Do we think then, based on the leaks and the rumors, we haven't had anything concrete about the kind of mid-series update using the 6 map? So do you think they're maybe going to skip it this time around Ubisoft? We usually have it by now.
We've had rumors that Ubisoft, well, pretty much announcements that Ubisoft have canned a bunch of titles, and mid-season Far Cry could have been an easy one that they've canned.
Yeah, they did support 6 maybe a bit longer than they would have traditionally done. Like we had like the Stranger Things DLC, we had the Villains DLC, which was like a roguelite. They did add a lot.
It might be possible some of the ideas that are now in Far Cry 7 started off as a spin-off for 6, like the time limit things. Yeah. You know how sometimes Ubisoft with the DLC or get a bit more experimental, like they did with Immortals, where it feels like, oh, you're using the DLC as a test bed for some of your ideas to almost pitch it up to like whoever's greenlighting that Ubisoft. And maybe this is when actually these are really cool ideas. It's growing and growing. Let's just make take this concept, forget about 6 and make it 7.
Yeah.
But that's pure speculation, but yeah, at this point, if we're getting leaks about Far Cry 7, I'm guessing at the next Ubisoft Forward it'll be there. And I don't think we'll be seeing in like a 6.5.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, there was always rumors they're working on a standalone multiplayer one, so maybe the mid game is now the kind of resources have been put into like trying to get a multiplayer one off the ground. Looking at the dates, Far Cry 5 came out in 2018, Far Cry 6 2021. So 2024 is the cadence for a new entry. However, if they've got Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Red this winter, unless they're going to do a proper Ubisoft and drop a Far Cry in the mix with those two as well, they'd be stupid to do so. I would hold off.
If they're smart, if we do have Assassin's Creed this, for me, you don't want Assassin's Creed and Far Cry in the same years.
No,
they're your two big hitters for Ubisoft. Alternate years.
Yeah,
and with something like Star Wars, that's more of a one-off rather than a recurring Ubisoft franchise right now. So you can fit that in at a different point, but try not to butt up too much. So end of this year, if Assassin's Creed Red isn't, to be honest, I would quite happily have it Far Cry 7 this year, Assassin's Creed Red next year, and have another year's development for Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, it's interesting to think. I wonder how much they talk about butting up against Ghost of Tsushima, because if they push Red out to next year, you're getting closer to maybe Tsushima 2 launch, and then it's like, do you want that cadence of going up against it? Yeah, so there's so many things to juggle. For me, I think Far Cry 5 and 6 came out in early in the year, so they kind of hit springtime instead. Like, I had a great time playing Far Cry 5 in like the spring of 2018. There's something just about the game in like a sunny environment, just daft chaos, running around in open world. Like it fits for springtime when the release schedule isn't too heavy in the rest of the world. But I think if you go up against the big dogs in wintertime, Christmas time, you do get the risk of being ran over by other things. But
the thing is, we know Ubisoft are very much keep very close eye on what their stocks and shares are doing. It might just be a case of we need a win this year, so let's announce at the next Ubisoft Forward, probably in the summer, let's go big. We're going to start with Far Cry 7. Here's your big new thing. Oh yeah, and it's going to be 2025, and with a Q1 2025, so maybe, well, not Q1, like January, somewhere in between January and April. So it's in this financial year, but we're going to do Assassin's Creed Red this year, and that's what you finish your Forward on, Assassin's Creed Red.
Yeah.
But with that one gives you a proper full-on release date of like October, November or something.
Yeah.
So you're getting like bang, bang, there you go.
Yeah. So I think you're completely right. I think we'll see some Far Cry news at this summer's Ubisoft Forward. We're only 2 months out from Summer Game Fest kicking off, Richie. So we're gonna get like loads of solid, juicy game news in the coming weeks, which I'm really excited for.
That's probably why this leaks come through. They might be prepping this, and that's how the leaks got. They're prepping for the showcase.
Yeah, in response to some of the questions, the leaker did suggest it's heating up was one of his responses. So yeah, keep it locked on that one. I think Cillian Murphy is riding super high. He got so many awards off the back of Oppenheimer as well. So having him as your poster boy for Far Cry 7 would be, I think, a really good shout. Just like Giancarlo Esposito. He's in pretty much everything at the moment across multiple franchises. Just wait for him to show up as Professor X in the MCU. Richie is the rumor that I'm reading right now, which I think it would make a great No, Giancarlo Esposito.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Is like
again. I think I found that slightly weird casting, but okay.
I think it'd be great. But rather than playing a villain for a change, he's a phenomenal actor. But either way, Far Cry, love it or hate it, it is one of Ubisoft's big hitters, and it always sells well. Even though 6 was mediocre received, a lot of the feedback was just it's more Far Cry, but it still was one of the best sellers of that year. So for Ubisoft, I think it's a safe bet that realistically doesn't use up that many resources, because it's the same copy and paste formula that we begrudge Ubisoft for. It's make a big map, put some checkpoints in there, give us a brief story, and we'll hammer it with a season pass and DLC, and it seemingly makes them money. I
hope with the strict time limit on it, they do have it designed to be more replayable. So yeah, we're not expecting you in one play session to get every single node on the map to get you. It's like, you know what? There's a couple of different endings based on your choices. Yeah. And do it that way. Be an interesting take.
I think Far Cry is my Fallout. Essentially, big open world, connected story, jump around, check everything out, do some missions, do a lot of side missions, first person, carry lots of crap with you, upgrade your weapons, upgrade your armor and stuff, and yeah, that made in another world. I went down the Fallout route and played that for hours and hours. Instead, I've gone on the Far Cry route and I've got the platinum in every trophy since 3. So
Far Cry is a nicer world to exist in. I'll give you that. Fallout's a bit bleak.
I mean, for Far Cry New Dawn, after the events of 5, you actually did set off a nuke and the whole wasteland got made, but it was all with bright, colourful. It was when Ubisoft went through that colourful neon phase where everything was bright pink, bright yellow.
They turned up the saturation and everything.
Yeah, we got what was this? What was the game we got a sequel to from Bethesda? Rage 2. We got a random Rage 2 came out, and that was all bright pinks. Then we got Far Cry New Dawn, and then a bunch of other games just were we're going to lean into it. Riders Republic was all about the flares going off that were all bright. It's right, enough of that. Yeah. But speaking of Fallout, pivoting away to our next story of the week, Fallout's everywhere. You can't get away from it. We were talking about it at the top of the show. We've been playing it. Go check out our first look at Fallout 76 up on the channel now. That was this past Thursday. We might play some more this week. We'll see. Video games, off the back of it, we've seen in the past the success of The Witcher on Netflix. That then boosts the game sales and vice versa. We've seen it with The Last of Us and The Last of Us games. So to no surprise to everybody, sales of Fallout games have shot up across Europe and the rest of the world, with Fallout 4 reclaiming number one spot. The 2015 game sales rose over 7,500% week on week across Europe, tracking based on GSD data, which tracks digital game sales across all European markets. So you're talking UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain, etc. Of course, they were heavily discounted.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I have a massive caveat to that, and it wasn't the heavy discounts. It's the fact that this game is available on PlayStation Plus and Xbox Game Pass for free.
Does it count free?
Extra. Get PlayStation Plus Extra, not base PlayStation, but that does No, it's not free, but it would eat into the sales when people go, I fancy playing Fallout, go on PlayStation Store, search for Fallout, and go, oh, I have it.
Yeah,
Great.
I mean, I'll be honest. I looked at Fallout 4 because the sale ran until I think the end of this weekend, and even though I have it on disc, I did contemplate for the benefit of me not having to install the disc and use the disc and being able to jump between it. I was like,
is after my advice last week when it's like it's only £4. I know it's on PlayStation Plus, but it's coming off it. It's £4.
Yeah, so I have it, but then it's like, do I just want a digital version of it just so I can boot it up without having to dig out the disc and put it in and install the disc version?
I mean, if you have a disc, it's straight up wasting £4.
I didn't in the end, but so heavy discounts across the entire franchise. They're all over on Steam for like $2.50 and whatnot. But yeah, as expected, everything's shot through the roof. Looking at Fallout 4, that seems to be the biggest one. My guess is
top 10.
Yeah,
Fallout.
it's I saw a funny tweet that was like PlayStation stores being overtaken by Xbox properties, and it was like you said, like the majority of the top 20 was just some variation on Fallout, which is great to see, and that's kind of like what Xbox want, right? With these acquisitions, is like they're making money on a competitor's platform, hand over fist.
Yeah, 76 New Vegas and Fallout 3 are 8, 9, and 10 respectively as well on this list.
It just shows you though, this like if you make a good show to complement the series, the curiosity alone gets people back in the door.
I don't know why I'm surprised by this, but I am every time I see it. Who the hell is still buying Grand Theft Auto 5? Surely everyone in the world has this game by now. It's in at number 4 still.
Remember when they made a GTA movie?
Are these being? Are these? It makes me wonder. Are these lists skewed by in-game purchases, or is this just game sales?
Game sales?
Yeah, but then who's the hell's buying Grand Theft Auto 5 still?
I think
it's a weekly top 10.
I think we're just lost out of the popularity of it. Where like every time there's a new generation of kids comes in, like people have birthdays every day of the week. And then it's just like, I can get it now, I can play it now, I can do it now. And the friend recommended. I don't know what it is. An absolute. I'm curious to see what happens.
Surely they're running out of people though.
You think new people are born every second, one born every minute. Born from hospital straight to playing GTA.
Rockstar actually in the maternity wards have a shotgun. Oh, you got a new kid? Would you like to buy them Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah, discount for newborns. I'll be curious to see what GTA 5 sales look like a year or two after GTA 6's launch. Like, does it just get completely abandoned, or does it still have this like retro mass following for decades to come?
Because they're not just in the top 10. GTA 6 drops out, and then it's never heard of again.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with that one. But bring it back around to Fallout 4, respectively. Yeah, Fallout 4 sales represent 69% of the all sales across PlayStation, Xbox. However, there is some jump up in other ones as well. Fallout 76 comes in at number 8. Which is the game we jumped into, again, for the multiplayer aspect of it. That took 85% of its sales on PC. So, again, PC sales feed into it a lot. You've got to remember, though, on Xbox Game Pass, I think a lot of people have checked this out on Game Pass, which you get access to the entire catalogue of Fallout games. So
and PlayStation Plus. So,
it's there.
Your two main consoles, I know it's on things like Luna. There's rumours that Fallout 3 might be coming to Switch as well. But your two main consoles at the moment, you can get it free of charge, probably with a subscription you already have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It is available on Amazon alone, like you said, Vegas and Fallout 3. They make up some of the sales as well. Vegas in at number 9, Fallout 3 at number 10. And then, further down the charts on PC, the Fallout Classic Collection is up to 43 and Fallout 2 in at 57, respectively. Obviously, the older ones, naturally, they're going to suffer from the test of time a little bit. I've listened to a few podcasts.
They're not first-person shooters.
No, they're not.
They've top-down isometric games, which, considering Baldur's Gate done really well last year, a remake should be something they're thinking about.
So like again, everyone will have gone through that discussion like I had, where it was like, right, I'm enjoying the show. Where do I want to jump into? And I think there's always a definitive cut-off point, which I'm to no surprise for. It's the more recent one that isn't multiplayer. It's getting a next gen update this week. And like you said, it's readily available on all current consoles.
Yeah, again, and my advice from last week still stands. If you have on PlayStation, if you're a PlayStation fan, don't have an Xbox, my advice would be test the game out on PlayStation Plus. If you think might be into it, drop the £4 because it's going to leave PlayStation. I think early May, it might be sooner, but in the next few weeks, it'll leave in PlayStation Plus. And at the moment, it's on sale for like really discounted. So if you're enjoying it, £4, even if you can go, oh yeah, I only played another 5-10 hours, it's worth the money, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the upgrade is free.
Yeah. So why not? Let us know in the comments below what you guys are playing there. Which Fallout have you dove into first? I was actually doing some research on the series after listening to a few other gaming podcasts this week. I didn't actually realise like the original games weren't made by Bethesda.
No,
which is like, I just presumed they
it's from Fallout 3.
It. Yeah, it's Interplay, developer no longer around, made Fallout 1. Black Isle took over for Fallout 2. And then, Fallout 3 is Bethesda, same with 4, and then presumably 5 and all the spin-off stuff. A lot of the Interplay team and the Black Isle team became Obsidian, which makes sense. Yeah. Like, the devs leave bankruptcy or through, I think it was Vivendi, when all that crap kicked off with Vivendi back in the 2010s.
Who then made New Vegas.
Which makes sense, and then New Vegas is... They're one of the, if not the most revered of the whole franchise.
I think it is the most critically acclaimed, and like it's got the most beloved.
Which interesting to think, you had like 1 and 2 made by the same team, even though they're under a different umbrella, and then Bethesda took over for Fallout 3, and then New Vegas comes along from essentially the original people who made it. It's almost like homecoming for them, and now obviously Obsidian are off making Avowed and owned by Microsoft, but they could still eventually make a Fallout game. Maybe because they're all in-house with Microsoft and through some weird twist of events and purchase and buyouts. Did Bethesda just like acquire the IP then during them going bust? It must have been like a quick
really
cash grab for. I mean, Fallout's a cool IP to have, whether you're making movies, TV, or games.
It might just be as like the studio, whoever had the publishing rights went under. Maybe like Bethesda came in, bought the publishing company who owned the rights. Like, and then just went, well, these are ours now. I'm not quite sure how it happened. What happened well before I was aware of what's going on in the gaming landscape. Back when I was just a little kid playing games for fun.
Little kids.
As a big kid, as opposed to a big kid in my mid-30s playing games for fun.
So, looking at just a quick internet search, is Providence Equity bought 25% of ZeniMax stock in late 2007 and an additional stake in 2010. The Fallout franchise was acquired by Bethesda from Interplay Entertainment, and the development of Fallout 3 was handed over to Bethesda game. Fallout was released in October 2008. So it looks like some kind of ZeniMax equity stake when Providence went bust. Although it does say, interesting looking at Cora, where I know you go for all your proper answers. Bethesda bought the rights to Fallout universe from Interplay for $30. Wow.
Yeah, if the companies went under.
It's like one of them.
Fire sale?
It happens in the UK, doesn't it, when it's like they bought them for the cost of £1 Great British pound. Like you have to put an amount on it, and it's always like the least common denominator.
And the thing is, I think back then as well, they'd only released Fallout 1 and 2, which I think have become cult classics, but probably weren't at the time. So the IP probably wasn't... It's not the IP we have now. I think the IP we have now started with Fallout 3.
Yeah, I agree.
And then because of Fallout 3, they became cult classics.
Yeah.
So Bethesda probably basically played a blind and went, we can see the value in this IP. In our hands, we think we can develop this into be one of the de facto biggest video game IPs ever, which is basically what Fallout is nowadays.
Yeah. They've essentially struck gold as well with this because they haven't... I know
we paid 30 quid for it.
Yeah,
yes,
but we
absolutely have.
But we've like lamented them with not having anything like new to launch with the series. But then in a weird way, like this is the best outcome because they've already got such a big back catalogue, and thanks to like backwards compatibility and next gen updates and the evergreen sales of the Steam storefront. It just seems like you put it out, this TV show does well, and then off the back of it, I'd be very interested to know how much profit towards the cost of the show they've made. Like, as the show just broke even completely based on the sales boom they've seen from its success.
I don't know, because they are heavily discounted. So people aren't paying 50, 60 quid for these Fallout games. They're paying £4 or £5.
Yeah.
So, but
it adds
at
up,
this
right?
At this point, the development costs of, say, Fallout 4 are completely covered.
Yeah.
There's no question of that. So every single, apart from like say Sony's cut, everything is going to Bethesda. If you buy this on Game Pass through Xbox, well, Xbox will probably officially take a cut, but it's the same company, just a different pot. Not the same company, it's the same the money's in the same corporate structure somewhere. It's just in a different place.
Yeah, and
so that's basically 100% profit, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and to Microsoft's point, again, like this is why they said they wanted to acquire all these games for that catalog of Game Pass. Like I'd love to see the spike in Game Pass subscribers they see. Yep. And again, Fallout games aren't something you usually in or out. You could play them for months because they're so vast and huge. Like you might keep your Game Pass subscription for many more weeks, and then Xbox will hope that it'll be enough time to maybe see you to Hellblade, and then see you to the next Forza, and then that's the concept of Game Pass, isn't it? You perpetually stay subscribed because that next thing is always coming, and if they can fill that gap with TV shows to get an additional boost, then that's another gap filled of keeping people on the bandwagon. So.
And guess what, PC fans, don't sleep on Xbox Game Pass for PC. Like, I know there's a lot of people buying this on Steam, but it's probably worth the monthly subscription for the PC only Game Pass. If you don't have a console, you don't get cloud in that. But if you're a PC only gamer, you probably don't need cloud, because if you're PC only, chances are you got a decent PC.
Yeah, interesting.
But, yeah.
Well, Fallout success, we'll see it. Now we just have to go back into the vault and wait, Richie, for another 2 years to maybe see the next series. But I was happy how it ended. Yeah. It made me very intrigued. I've seen some hubbub online about the ending contradicting maybe one of the games.
Not necessarily. It's not really a contradiction. There's some of the games have multiple endings. Yeah. It's almost effectively picking, because the TV show is canon, effectively it's forcing one ending, maybe one or two endings at the moment of one of the games to be locked in as the canon events. Yeah. But that's nothing new really for games that have had sequels. Yeah, it just happens the sequel is not a game, it's a TV show. It's
a decision that we need to kind of like just suspend disbelief. And like, look, you're playing a game, the show's based on a game, you can't have multiple endings on a TV show, so just suck it up, get on with it.
Yeah.
Because the end of it, I was like, ooh.
You can still go back and play the game and have experience a different ending, and that be your story you've told. Yeah. It's just not the official, the critical kind of, whatever the MCU calls it. The
Endgame?
What's the multiverse thing?
The
master timeline, whatever they call
it.
The
sacred timeline.
Yeah, there's a sacred timeline running through Fallout.
Yeah, and this will be it. But we will see more because it's been officially confirmed by Amazon that Season 2 will be coming. The way it ends, I think they knew what they were on to. And I think every money... And they're getting like $25 million shooting grant as part of the California government. Not the new Californian Republic government, the current one, subsidizing the production for shooting in the state. So it's like they've already got $25 million head start. So it's almost like a green light automatically. Yeah. It's kind of like, where do they shoot all the Walking Dead? Really hot place in America. Is it Atlanta? They shoot a lot of stuff in Atlanta because I think they have like special filming rights. Like everything's cheap apparently. But
that government has put together a pot of money to try and entice filmmakers into the area.
Yeah, I think Australia did it as well recently.
I think Montreal has it for video games.
Yeah, that's why Montreal. Yeah,
to try and encourage game development in. Yeah, like Quebec.
We should do something in our country rather than just fucking everyone over. But moving on to other TV, as I said, it's a very TV-centric episode. There's rumours circulating this week that Sony, the parent company of PlayStation, are looking to purchase the movie giant Paramount. You'd be familiar with them. They'll own plenty of IP. They've made probably many of your classic favourite movies over the years. But the rumour is, that they're looking to sell and get out of the business. And then there's other people coming to look in. Paramount apparently has had proposed deals from other people coming. I think Skydance are one of them, but they're not too keen on being bought by certain entities. However, Sony, seemingly having their own picture division and successful movie franchises, would be a good home for them with having Columbia Pictures and big IP. And it kind of made me think, like, put my gaming hat on and think, like, what would that mean for Sony? And I think Sony missed out massively on the streaming wars. They've just not really been involved. They've just licensed their movies out. I think Netflix predominantly takes up a lot of Sony movies. Things like Uncharted, Ghostbusters and stuff have showed up on Netflix. The movies just go anywhere and everywhere, to be honest. They tried with, I think, was it PlayStation streaming or something a couple of years back, and it never really worked out. And I think we can all agree the biggest ones is like Amazon at the moment, Disney Plus, and Netflix.
They need to have the branding decoupled from PlayStation, in my opinion, for it to work.
Yeah, it needs to be standalone. So, but then Sony, I don't think the name Sony doesn't carry that much weight, and I don't want another one. I don't want Sony Plus as like a separate thing.
But Paramount Plus.
I've got Paramount Plus. I paid £34 for an entire year.
Rather than building our own, let's just buy someone else's.
Add it in.
And add our stuff to it. And maybe over time, you eventually you rebrand it to Sony Plus.
And it made me think, like, thinking of the games world, because we've got a lot of Sony things. We've had, like, obviously the Spider-Man games, a massive Ghostbusters franchise, and a bunch of stuff in between. I was looking at some of the Paramount IP, and I was thinking, like, well, what do Paramount own that Sony would then become the owners of? And what would that look like? So, Rich, I'll throw it over to you for the franchises, because there's a few funny ones that stood out for me. Are you looking for a Frasier or Cheers video game?
I want to preface this bit of conversation where I'm just going to assume that if Sony buys Paramount, they get exclusive rights to every aspect of these IP. But in reality, I'm aware that the rights to the video games might be sold separately to the rights to the movies and TV shows. But so this conversation, Sony gets the lot.
Yeah, you're talking like Nickelodeon, MTV, a lot of reality TV, which obviously doesn't link to video games at all.
South Park.
But yeah.
Give me a good South Park game. Again, with Trey Parker and Matt Stone, big game fans, helped produce two fantastic South Park games. Both had the unique charms and styles to them. And the Snow Day thing looks kind of crap, to be honest.
Yeah, it reviewed poorly as well.
Yeah, so it's like, can we not get this franchise back to doing something interesting? But because it can work in the game space. Like,
really, I mean, we've seen it. Sick
of Truth and Fractured But Whole, both really good.
From Ubisoft.
Yeah.
You give it to THQ Nordic and then mess it up. Funnily enough, earlier on we mentioned Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's owned by Nickelodeon, so that you would get these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games coming in-house as well, potentially. I joked, but you're not going to see a Frasier, Cheers. Any of the sitcoms aren't really going to translate over. Jackass, we must have had a Jackass video game from MTV at some point in the past.
I'm not sure how you do that.
In my mind, I'm like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, because they had some Jackass characters, like people show.
It worked a bit in there, because that was the Bam Margera crossover, because he was a professional skater, but he was also a key part of Jackass. I'm not quite sure what the gameplay would be.
I'm thinking
modern times, for something like
GTA
that.
framework, and you just cause chaos in like a town. Yeah. Maybe. Again, it's not really the best. The top ones for me.
Top Gun Flight Sim? A Top Gun Flight Sim?
I mean, the Top Gun was in the latest Microsoft Flight Simulator as like an expansion. Yeah. It makes sense.
Sony don't really have a flight sim. Using the Top Gun for Flight Sim, I think there could be something really cool. That could actually be a good games as a service thing, where you're just going up in the sky and dogfighting against your mates.
Yeah. I mean, there's
obviously expand upon that, but I think there's something interesting that could be done there. So I wouldn't go try and take Top and go, we're going to go toe-to-toe against Microsoft Flight Sim. I'd do your own thing with the IP, but...
Yeah, I think it needs to be more arcadey as well, because you are shooting things down, essentially, whereas Flight Simulator is more like go from A to B, commercial flights and whatnot, cargo, whereas Top Gun is very much like, shooting things down. But yeah, Top Gun could be an interesting one, especially after its resurgence with Maverick. The big one for me, or the big two for me, I guess, is probably Star Trek. Like, we've gushed over Star Wars Outlaws, Jedi Survivor and stuff, and I know they are different sci-fi worlds, but they're always going to be compared. The last Star Trek games that stand out for me is we had the VR game Bridge Crew, where you very much just take on a role each in the captain's
looks
quarters.
Actually really fun.
Yeah, it does, but again, VR suffers from its own downside. I remember a Star Trek game came out, I think 2008, 2009, in line with the movie reboot, where you played as like Chris Pine's captain and Spock, Zachary Quinto, I think it was, and it was basically like in the style of Uncharted. So it was like a third person. You could play as co-op as well, so you could both do it. And you ran around, you had your phaser guns and stuff, and you went through like parts on the ship, missions on a planet. You helped out the local tribe, whatever the usual like mission of the day was. And it was like, it played well. It just didn't review. It was very much at the time like AA movie tie-in game, but like I enjoyed what I played of it, and I'm thinking like the Star Trek universe, just like Star Wars, is so rich for storytelling across the galaxies. There's got to be something in there if you want that IP. Like, there's got to be a good Star Trek game somewhere in there.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to think. My major thought was, what if they did something like Starfield, but with Star Trek?
Yeah, they just swap that out. Like, just go explore the universe, like No Man's Sky style.
That's it. That's the premise of the game is you are part of, I don't know Star Trek lore, so forgive me for this. You're part of the crew of a successor to the Enterprise, and you have to explore because the original Star Trek was the SS Enterprise just was set out into the universe to go explore. And that was basically the premise. You could just do that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use any of the TV shows. I'd pick your own, right, this is going to be its own standalone thing. So you're not crossing over. But,
well, it has that benefit, doesn't it? Is you can just go Starfleet, here's your ship, here's your time zone, go out.
And as you explore the universe, the plot unravels or whatever with the Klingons, or whatever race you want to bring in. Again, not a Trekkie, so... But I'm sure there must be someone at Sony, one of their big studios, must be a Trekkie, must go, I want to make a Star Trek game. I have a fantastic idea for that. I wrote a fan fiction of this when I was a kid.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. And the other IP that really stands out for possible changeover...
Dora the Explorer?
Yeah, 100%. We've got Dora games.
Yeah. Well, actually,
the Nickelodeon kind of umbrella of Paw Patrol, Dora the Explorer, SpongeBob. We know THQ Nordic are like just dicking around with these at the moment. They're just putting out like games. Like that's the thing with kids' family-friendly games. They don't need to be amazing. They just need to tick a few tie-in boxes. It was just in the Bluey game, have massive success just off the back of how popular Bluey is. So yeah, you don't need to worry too much about that. The other big one I was getting at is Mission Impossible. I think in a world absent of Metal Gear for now and Splinter Cell, I think there's a gap for a Mission Impossible. It doesn't need to be Tom Cruise, doesn't need to be tied in, but just that world of it's the government branches of secret society saving the world from like nuclear explosions or terrorists or whatever. It's kind of similar to like Jack Ryan, that kind of vibe. Just give me an espionage, because we don't really have any really at all. Like we know Project 007 has been worked on by the Hitman guys over at IO. That's probably maybe going to get a reveal this year, hopefully. But in terms of like the world of video games, it's far and few between. I think growing up, there must have been like one every other half a year. We got some kind of like tactical espionage thing.
There was a Mission Impossible game for the N64.
Yeah. But it's been a while.
Might be on the platforms. Yeah. Now, what would you do? Would you go Tom Cruise? Someone who looks like Tom Cruise would go, we're going to do our own character set in that universe. Because it's whether Tom Cruise would be expensive. Yeah. Or might not even be willing, full stop. If you try to get someone to match him, then you're going to get a bit of uncanny valley. But if you go standalone character...
I mean, I think the way the movie franchise has gone now, and thankfully the name isn't called Ethan Hunt Mission Impossible. It's not like James Bond 007. It's literally Mission Impossible is just the franchise. And the movies have got to a point where it's very much got a full team of people across the agency, and there's like 5 or 6 of them. So I think being one of those agents, maybe with a mention of Ethan... like in the memos or the dialogues.
You might even get him for a cameo or something. You use his same squad, so you might even get like Simon Pegg involved and stuff.
Yeah. Back to Star Trek.
Simon you don't Pegg's necessarily have to have him in. I think that's the way I would go. It's going to be a Mission Impossible style story with a unique character. There may be a recurrence of some familiar faces.
Bones.
And that gives you a bit of, gives you a platform to work with, but... I think Transformers as well should be worth.
Yeah, again, there's like 2 or 3 of those games in the. There's a new movie trailer just dropped actually this week with Chris Hemsworth. I think Transformers 1, but again, franchise like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles I've never really been that attached to. But in terms of a video game, Richie, cars and dinosaurs that change into vehicles and vice versa and back, and they fight for the future of humanity / their own homeworld. Yeah, with lots of imminent evil threat, like that is video game 101. Just give me
I'm not
shit.
A fan of the Transformers movies because I don't like Michael Bay. He's a sort of director who seems to use plot as a way to get from one explosion to the next.
Does he still do the movies?
I don't know, but I lost interest in Transformers movies a long time ago. But I think there's something in the IP. If you give it, say, someone like a Naughty Dog, although Naughty Dog tend to do their own stuff, someone who's really good at crafting these stories, there's something I think you could do something really interesting.
I don't. They'd never give it a Naughty Dog, but you could give Frasier to Naughty Dog, and they would make an epic Frasier sitcom game. Well, baby, I hear the blues are calling. Yeah. Anyway,
you know what? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah.
Which of these that we've talked about, what developer in Sony's like suite of development would you give each one to?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. You've got Mission Impossible, Top Gun, Star Trek, Transformers, Jackass, South Park, SpongeBob, Dora, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, etc. There's other elements of the business deal that come into it. They'd acquire, obviously, land in Hollywood across 62 acres worth of studio space. So potentially for Sony's devs, they could open up a game studio within the shooting studios for mocap.
We've all talked about. We've actually took this entire conversation from like, oh, what does Paramount bring to like gaming? We haven't went what does Sony's gaming, what PlayStation bring to Paramount?
Like
any of their IPs. Like, what if they wanted to do an Uncharted, or not Uncharted, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima TV show?
They are doing it with Netflix.
Well, there you go. This might be part of it. Yeah.
What have we got?
But instead of doing it with Netflix, and now take that in house.
Yeah, well, we've got Ghost of Tsushima,
Metal,
Horizon. Twisted Metal's a thing.
I know.
You're just naming things that are already happening now. How about a Fallout series?
That'd be brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, but RuPaul's Drag Race, the game, coming out. Yeah,
Bring back Infamous. That'd be really cool.
We know video games can cross. It's only a matter of time until everything's made anew. But moving on away from that, do let us know in the comments below. It's an interesting story that we'll keep following. I don't know how much it will really impact video games, but it's money made behind the scenes for Sony potentially, which inevitably will be funded back into the PlayStation brand. So if they do well, if it keeps them in the green, great. I'm happy to just see streaming services be consolidated. I don't like consolidation in the gaming industry, but in terms of the TV space, my word. I don't want too many subscriptions. That's the thing. I don't like business consolidation because I think it's bad for creativity, but I don't want 8 subscription services to watch television. Yeah, I'm at
because then you might as well go back to bloody cable box under your telly.
I think I pay more now than I would have done for cable, but
I don't, because I just activate them when I want them. But
yeah, well, it's things like Paramount Plus where it was like, do you want 12 months for $34.99? And I just had that quick chat with the wife. It was like, well, you chip in 15 odd quid, I'll chip in 15 odd quid. I'll get all the South Park that I want to watch. You get all whatever reality show you're watching. And over the course of a year, for 15 quid, like, you can't really deny it. Like, I've watched quite a lot of stuff on Paramount, so it's getting it. But either way, we digress. Moving on back to some game news then. Final Fantasy 16 The Rising Tide is available out now, which is the final content story DLC for Final Fantasy 16. Reviewing very well, Richie. Clive's journey is wrapped up seemingly very, very well. The final expansion adds another worthwhile chapter to the tale of Clive Rossfield. It takes place near the end of the game. Clive and his cohort friends find themselves travelling to the North region, where a mysterious Leviathan and a final fight takes place. Reviewed very, very well. I'm not going to go into it for spoilers if you've not played the main game, but in conclusion, it's a great expansion to an excellent RPG, offering one of the game's most intriguing and considered chapters. With yet more memorable boss fights, an emotional storyline, and some downright stunning environments, it's the worthy send-off Clive and the company deserve. Push Square in particular gave it an 8 out of 10. Richie, you don't tend to go back to DLC.
No.
Is there anything special about Final Fantasy that will make you dip your toe into it? It's currently $15.99, which I realised when I thought I bought the season pass when I did Echoes of the Fallen. I look back at my PlayStation receipts and I actually only bought the standalone Echoes of the Fallen instead of the multi-pack, and I was like, damn it, because that after I've just finished Evil West, I could have jumped in this week before Fallout, completed it, and now I'm like, I don't really want to spend 16 quid on some DLC right now.
Well, again, I've been talking a little bit in the Discord, and like, one of the reasons why I don't really bother with DLC much is because by the time I finish a game like Final Fantasy 16, it's a 100-hour experience already. So I'm either usually like done with the game, ready to move on, so I'm not interested in the DLC, or the DLC is months after I played the game, in which case I struggle to go back to a save like that's already active. So I wouldn't enjoy jumping back into Final Fantasy 16 and picking up where I left off. I almost would want to go back and start again to relearn the controls and stuff. So it's like, it's not drawing me in for that reasons. It's nothing to do with the quality of what the DLC is. It's just because I've already moved on.
Yeah. I mean, they must make money from these DLCs, these game companies, because again, bringing it out like almost a year after the initial launch, they must see enough profit to merit the development cost and promotion and stuff to get people to jump back in. But it's one that I'm like... Yeah.
If I was to, in a few years' time, if I was to go back and go, I really fancy playing Final Fantasy 16 again, I would consider buying the DLC at that point.
Yeah, same.
Because I did play Echoes of the Fallen, because I didn't play 16 on release. I played it a few months later when Echoes of the Fallen was out. So I bought it, and it just became part of my playthrough. So I actually played it before rolling credits. So I could potentially do something like that for Echoes for Rising Tides if I wanted to do another full playthrough. But right now, I'm not interested in doing another full playthrough.
Yeah, it's been about another half a year, hasn't it, since Echoes of the Fallen now? So I'm like so out of the loop. I'm like, if I'm going to start Fallout this week, I might as well just go again forward thinking something new. Yeah. But it's there either way. Getting good reviews. It's nice to see the game have a great send off because it was one of my favorite. Did it? Oh no, Alan Wake pipped it, didn't it, last year for my?
Yeah, it was
my game.
It was my favorite.
It was so close, I will say, between that and Alan Wake. But Alan Wake was more in my wheelhouse. Speaking of other things that are in a wheelhouse, Richie, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut for PC, which I know what you're thinking. Didn't this already come out? No, it came out on PS5 probably a year ago now, it seems like. The PC version is finally imminent. And interesting enough, PlayStation tweeted out with a blog post as well this week talking about the PC version coming from Nixxes, who's their kind of porting team now. I'll read direct from the blog. Hey everyone, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut is coming to PC on May 16th. We're giving you all the details, but more importantly, it comes with trophy support. As we've announced previously, Director's Cut on PC contains the full game, the Iki Island expansion, cooperative multiplayer Legends mode, which is phenomenal. Thanks to crossplay, Legend players on PC can team up with players on PS4, PS5, and in-game PC chat. You just need to require to sign into your PSN account to access Legends. But more importantly, Director's Cut is the first PlayStation title on PC that uses a new PlayStation overlay, which includes your friend list, trophies, settings, your profile. We'll connect these features available on Windows PC. Just press the Shift and F1 shortcut on your keyboard to see it. What that means is you can earn trophies throughout the PC, just like you would on your console, and a bunch of other perks that connect it up. And then give the specs for the PC edition, resolution mode, all the other things we knew about. Richie?
Should I briefly go through the specs? I'm only going to touch on the medium 1080p, 30 frames per second. You need like a 2060 or above, really.
So play it on your PS5 for most people. But the biggest thing here is trophy support on PC. That's been the one disconnect for me. Is like, why would I buy it on PC if I'm not going to gain the trophies? And of course, the games come out
because you're a PC gamer who doesn't care about consoles. Yeah,
but it's that ecosystem that I think PlayStation have wanted from the beginning. Is they want people to play God of War 2018, pop some trophies, and the trophies go, just come over here and you'll get more trophies on the PS5. And I think it's that ecosystem thing that really makes people think long and hard about where they want to play the next entry. So when Ghost of Tsushima 2 gets announced, PC players know it ain't coming out for at least a year beyond the initial launch. They go, you know what, I'm going to get a PS5 to play Ghost 2 because number one on PC was so damn good. And I think that's a game worth buying a console for, if I'm honest.
Yeah, actually, complete side note that has just come to my brain. I was talking to my brother over the weekend. He's my brother's 100% PC gamer. He's not touching a console. Wouldn't give a crap about trophies coming to the Ghost of Tsushima at all. Guess what he's playing?
Fallout.
No.
The Last of Us?
No.
Ghost of Tsushima.
It is a Sony title. And it's a
Helldivers 2.
He's playing Helldivers.
Helldivers 2. And what did you say to that? I do not like democracy, peace, or freedom. I'm against it.
Yeah, basically what I've said in the podcast is like I respect it from afar, but I'm not interested in playing it.
Is he enjoying it?
Yeah, he's loving it.
Is he playing with friends or just on his own?
Yeah, he plays with his best mate. So yeah,
that's it. Good to hear.
There you go.
But yeah, PlayStation trophy overlays then. They've seen success. Obviously, Helldivers is doing huge, like you've referenced that there. But this is on the back of like a long success for Sony of millions of additional copies sold of older games. Ghost of Tsushima is one of my favourite games of all time, and to see it up-res, better performance, widescreen mode, but then if I could play it and get trophies as well, for me, as a trophy whore, that would be great. Long time coming, this one. Obviously, it only particularly says Ghost of Tsushima at the moment. I'm guessing this is going to roll out to all the other releases.
Yeah, I wonder if this is the reason why it's been delayed a bit, to get the trophies in there. We'll use Ghost of Tsushima as a test bed for this. So let's get this overlay stuff in there, get that out, and then maybe if it does well and it's received well, we'll start rolling out into the other games that already exist.
Yeah.
on the PlayStation, on the PC, and then add it to things going forward and build that ecosystem slowly, bit by bit.
I will clarify as well, as a con to the blog and some of the responses they've done on Twitter, this is the same trophy list you would have on your PlayStation 5. So this isn't a case of you can do Ghost of Tsushima on PS4, pop your trophies on the PS5 version, log in on PC and get a third list of trophies for PC version. The trophies will be the PS5 version. So if I then played half of Ghosts on PC, then went back to my console, it would be the same trophy list I was contributing to for both. So you're not getting like triple dipping.
I know trophy hunters are going to hate me for this, but PlayStation needs to have a bit more synergy across. There should be just one trophy list. One, like how with Xbox you have smart delivery. Sony really need to do that. It's annoying to boot up a game on PlayStation 5 and play it, but then I've got PS4 as well, and then I can't play it. This my same save.
Mm-hmm.
I know the different versions of the game, but I think it's somewhere Sony really need to improve.
Sony believe in generations, remember?
They shouldn't be, but
can't the Jack Ryan?
You can have generations of hardware, but the software doesn't have to be that hard locked.
Yeah. I think they're learning from their mistakes this generation, aren't they? Like trying to synchronize everything up. But Microsoft, again, kings of software, have always been doing that, and that's why they're second to none on that front. Yeah. Speaking of games, though, coming to Xbox from PlayStation, ironically enough, the gorgeous action-adventure game Kena Bridge of Spirits has been rated for Xbox. We covered this quite some time back, actually. I think it was rumoured and leaked for Game Pass alongside... There was another Sony exclusive, but I can't remember it right now. Kena Bridge of Spirits, though, looks like a Pixar animated movie. Beautiful little action platformer, 3D platform, I should say, almost with a Souls-like element to it. Rated, that inevitably means we've got to imagine the timed exclusivity with PlayStation is well up, and Ember Labs seemingly have been biding their time just to get it out right. Maybe give it some polish. Maybe it's only a small studio. This was their first game, remember? Which blew my mind. That again, we talk about indie games right at the top of this show. The fact that this came out from an indie studio and it's their first game and it looks as gorgeous as it did, it played as well as it did, and the storyline was so good. I reckon it could become the Game Pass. It could. It's like, again, it's such an older title. It feels like Game Pass is its perfect place to drop into. Stray, that was the other game that was rated. It was Stray and Kena at the same time. What are your thoughts?
Great game. Didn't quite click for me, but again, I really liked it. Well, I played probably about 5-10 hours, and I don't know what it was at the time. I just wasn't feeling it. But doesn't change my views of the game, which I think is a fantastic game. Looks beautiful, plays really well. It's just not, when you're not in the right mood for a game.
Mm-hmm.
This is not what I want to play right now.
Yeah.
Game Pass would be fantastic, I think, for this game. Although probably less so for sales, but it could be good for the developer in terms of getting more people familiar with their work.
Yeah.
It's that plus minus. Do they need the cash from this? Well, I think for them, ideally, this you do like maybe on just the storefront, and then maybe move it into Game Pass after. Yeah,
potentially. It's because it's already had its time. This Ember Studios is one of those that after playing Kena, I'd be very surprised if Sony didn't have them on the radar for acquisition. Like, small studio, they've now got proven work, and inevitably they're probably going to work on a sequel because of how well it did. Absolutely loved it. It's actually one of my hardest platinums I've ever done because the boss fights were very much Souls. You had to finish on like hard difficulty. And because, like an idiot, I didn't play the digital version when it came out, and you could glitch it by just finishing the boss and then pausing it and changing it to tough difficulty, and then letting the credits roll and pop the trophy. I waited for the physical release, which was about 3-4 months later. So I got the physical, and they'd patched it many, many times by then, so you had to do it the genuine way. I definitely sold some of my soul to get that trophy. But I thoroughly enjoyed the game, and I had a deep appreciation for it, I think, because of the grind I had to put in, which I guess is where Souls... spirits? No, it fixed it bridged my spirits, in fact. But yeah, great if it's coming to Xbox. You should definitely check it out if you're an Xbox player out there. But if it goes on Game Pass, even better. It could be a nice win this summer if it launches then. Final few quick stories, Richie, that we want to dive into this week. Hasbro owners of the Baldur's Gate franchise by proxy of Dungeons and Dragons. Larian, obviously off the back of their massive success, all of their awards for Baldur's Gate 3. Of course, there was a 23-year gap between 2 and 3, and my guess is Hasbro, after all the success and all of the money made, Larian is seemingly out. They've said they want to move on to their own IP.
Not seemingly, they straight up said, we're done.
Which is mad.
It's a brave move, but I respect them for that.
I respect it as well.
We wanted to make a Baldur's Gate game. We made the game that we wanted to make, and now we're going to do something else.
Yeah. So then that
Rather
leaves...
than going, we're now the Baldur's Gate guys.
And we're going to do another 2 decades worth of graft to make Baldur's Gate 4. But then, speaking to PC Gamer, you've got Vice President of Digital Strategies at Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast, who are the licensees. What did they do next? Like, where do you go? Because, like you said, this is Game of the Year award-winning, arguably one of the best games of all time now. How do you follow that up? But not only that, how do you follow up if you're not the studio who's worked on it in the past? Like, there's such a high bar now. How do you hand that over to someone and go, crack on? You
don't follow up with Baldur's Gate 4. You follow up with this. Back in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, there was a suite of games like Dungeons and Dragons style games, which Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 were part of, with things like Planescape Torment, Icewind Dale, and a few others. You dip into the other stuff. So you leave Baldur's Gate alone, Baldur's Gate 3, there we go. Now we're going to do an Icewind Dale 3 or something.
But do you think that would have the kind of the pull? Like, I feel like it's now such a namesake. Like,
I don't know,
because it's not even marketed as Dungeons and Dragons Baldur's Gate, is it? It's just Baldur's Gate.
I don't know, but this could come down to marketing. But there again, you can't do from the studio that made Baldur's Gate 3.
Exactly. So you're going to lose another one. Interesting enough, back to our other series, Talk Conversation. Paramount has just started an 8-episode run of a live-action TV series.
Well, Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
And you know what? Off Paramount Plus, me and my wife watched Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves with Chris Pine, and it was a great movie. I had an absolute ton of fun with that movie. Just as a side note, but yeah, I mean, Baldur's Gate. Like you're the one who's more in line with that one. In my mind, the Diablo team are the nearest thing I can think with like the scale and scope. But then Diablo, like Microsoft have got, surely they're just going to keep working on Diablo stuff. Like, why would you pull them off and put them on a project as large as this?
Well, it's not just, it's also Blizzard within Microsoft. So I don't know. It depends. So there's complications with it being part of the Activision Blizzard stuff.
But you need the prestige, right? You can't just give this to an indie team or an up-and-coming team and say, take one of the biggest franchises in existence with the most success and make a follow-up. You got to take. It's going to take them 5 to a decade before we.
I know who you're in the right. You're in the right ballpark with Microsoft, but you went for the wrong developer. You give it to Obsidian. They cut their teeth in this stuff. An Obsidian-led Baldur's Gate 4 or anything in that kind of Dungeons and Dragons world, I think they are probably the perfect partner.
Yeah.
Or maybe go BioWare.
I mean, they need a win. But again, it's like then you're taking a cut by licensing it out, aren't you? You
are, but you're getting the prestige. And if BioWare need a win, but they've also got a legacy in this kind of ballpark.
Yeah. It's just mad to think that Larian walk away. And like again, reading from Evans, the quote in the article says, we're now talking to a lot of partners and being approached by a lot of partners. Because you'd imagine a lot of people going and pitching ideas to them. That want to embrace this challenge and what the franchise looks like going forward. Unfortunately, there's no time frame for the release or even an announcement. So not only will it take many, many years to develop, but we've got to wait for this stuff to be ironed out as well. So you're talking probably a good year or two in negotiations and then pre-development and post-production. And then it's just like, you are probably looking at another 10 years.
I'm respecting that the fact they're saying we're going to take our time to find the right partner. We're not rushing into this, and that is, I think, is probably the right approach. It shows that they're treating the franchise with the respect rather than going, oh, it made us a lot of money. Who's available to develop and get immediately start work on the next title? It's like, no, we're going to take our time. We're going to find the best solution rather than the best solution that's readily available.
So what's next?
So it might be. it might just be a case of the guys we want to work on it are not available for another like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
But in 3 years' time, they'll go.
Yeah,
we'll go with it.
So what's next for Larian then? Do they pivot and make a different genre, a different type of game? Like, they've obviously got the money and the renown now. Whatever they stick the studio name on is going to get a boon in sales. But
they might just go back to their own stuff with beyond like the Divinity series.
Yeah, but is that not? That's D&D as well, right? A lot of the Divinity stuff's connected.
No, it's inspired by D&D, but it's not actually D&D.
Okay.
So the Divinity series is kind of very much inspired by something like Baldur's Gate.
Right.
If you play that, you can go, you can almost see it as if a bunch of guys going, we grew up playing these games, like Planescape Torment, Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and going kind of, what would a modern game in that?
Right.
How would we do a modern game? And then a few decades later, like a decade or two later, now we've got the opportunity to go back and play this, to make the next entry of a game that our entire team grew up playing.
Right. Okay.
So that's why I think it's been such a labour of love for them, because you can tell from their earlier games that they're very much inspired by Baldur's Gate and stuff like that.
Right.
So they might just go back to their own stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Maybe, Richie, they could turn their heads to making a Golden Axe game reboot.
Maybe Sega should.
Because according to rumours, again, this is a very TV-centric episode, Sega is turning Golden Axe into an animated series. Reading from The Verge, Comedy Central, part of the Paramount family, so then by proxy now potentially Sony, even though it's a Sega property, business, has ordered 10 episodes of a Golden Axe animated series based on the fantasy beat-em-up side-scroller. It's going to be both hilarious and loving in its adaptation of the game. Says, and quote from the article, if I remember the Sega Genesis days well, I think it means they'll be fighting over who gets to ride the purple big bird dinosaur, and at some point a gigantic hairy skull will float down and hotbox everyone. So this is from the producer who made Star Trek Lower Decks and American Dad. So I'm expecting it's going to be one of those like light-hearted comedy animated series. It's kind of like Rick and Morty almost. But yeah, it's headed by a bunch of industry veterans who've done a lot of content. For those who've never really played Golden Axe, it's essentially an old classic Sega Genesis / Mega Drive game where you pick a character. It's like a dwarf, a human, and two others that I can't really remember, and you go from left to the right screen fighting mythical creatures. Yeah. But there was no real story to it, right?
There is a bit of story, but it's in the classic like Sega Mega Drive era where most of the story's in the booklet.
Yeah, it's the lore is in the booklet, but it's...
A thing happens, 3 heroes have to set out to defeat the big enemy. Go.
Yeah. You had like special powers, right? Like, lightning and whatnot, and you could throw... Could you throw the dwarf? Was that a thing? Like you could ball up and throw?
He had a little dwarf with like his green outfit and an axe, and then you had the woman who had fire magic, then the blue guy with the hero, like, I can't remember what his stuff was.
It was like human mage dwarf, and the woman was like scantily dressed for going into combat. as you do.
I think I'm looking for a quite slapstick, full of dad humour kind of thing, like arguing over the mounts that you get throughout the game, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they always had a scene after the end of a level where they're at camp and the little imp things come.
Yeah. I think back to what I was saying there about the Chris Pine Dungeons & Dragons movie, like the comedy in that was very self-aware that it was a high fantasy movie. I think this animated series needs to be very self-aware that it's going on a ridiculous quest to fight for good against monsters.
I want one of them to use like the ultimate magic at like on some crap enemies, and then the other two characters go, "What did you do that for? That's complete overkill." Yeah. And then they get to a boss fight, and now they're underpowered for it.
Golden Axe.
That's the kind of just like, you know what? Don't shy away from this being a video game that you're making an anime of.
Was the end goal to get a Golden Axe? Was that like the Excalibur mythical weapon? Like that's the thing. Like Golden Axe seems like if you were to tell me make up a fake video game for your TV series. If anyone's watched Mythic Quest on Apple TV, where it's Rob McElhenney and he's got his fake studio in LA. And he makes a game, it almost sounds like that would be the fake in-game game of like, oh, we're working on Golden Axe 2. It's about a mythical high fantasy story about a golden axe that people get power to save the world. But yeah, animated series, it's funny, it's coming. Check it out. in the time. Last story of the week is Netflix have confirmed that The Witcher Season 5 will be its last. As Season 4 production gets underway, they'll be shooting 4 and 5 back-to-back, of course, as Liam Hemsworth takes up the mantle from Henry Cavill. I just wanted a quick check-in with this one, Richie. It's going to round up the final stories of the last couple of books. We know this has kind of took a southern turn from how quick and how well revered Season 1 and 2 of The Witcher were with Henry Cavill, and we discussed earlier in the show about the boon of the sales, Witcher 3. Witcher 4 we know is in the works, along with a spin-off over at CD Projekt Red. I don't know where this series ends. It's got a definitive endpoint, which I'm happy for, because it's Netflix are known for just dropping things and leaving it in the air. But
yeah, I think the definitive endpoint will probably... I haven't seen Season 3. It seemed to come and go without me even realising it came out, to be honest. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping it just ends at basically where the first game starts.
Right.
So the first game starts, for spoilers, for a game that came out
Witcher
a long time ago. Witcher 1, yeah. Right. So the Witcher 1 starts after Geralt escapes from the Wild Hunt and wakes up in Kaer Morhen with amnesia. Right. So the first game's largely about him uncovering his past a bit.
Okay.
So that would be a nice end point. So, yeah, because it's a lot of it is touched on in The Witcher 3 with the Wild Hunt coming back, but in The Witcher 3, but that's where I would see a natural end point.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of it. I enjoyed Seasons 1 and 2. 3 lost me a lot with just the writing and the direction of it, and it got very convoluted, and now they're replacing Henry Cavill in it, which is kind of he's one of the big draws and the pulls, of course. I hope Liam Hemsworth does a good job, because he's going to get a lot of shit. Yeah, I do as well. It's like a football manager stepping into the role of a 20-year legend who's been at the club for so long, and then you don't want to be the next man in the role. You want to be the guy after that.
But losing your lead actor in the way they did, basically the announcement came before Season 2 had even launched.
It was
losing your lead actor and that kind of thing does not put anyone in good faith about the series going forward. Because if he truly believes in the direction going forward, why is he jumping out?
Yeah, absolutely. But either way, we'll see what that is. But that brings an end to this week's episode of the GamerGuild Podcast, your weekly show for TV news and game-related slightly topics. Let us know in the comments below if you'll be checking out any of those TV series that we discussed throughout the course of the day. Let us know, of course, your feedback and answers. Thank you very much for watching. Giving us all the love. Finally, Richie, we end up every show with this day in video games. We're recording this on April the 21st, Sunday. So looking back in time, there's a big one, Richie. 35 years ago today in Japan, 1989, the year of our birth, those old fogies, the Game Boy, the original Game Boy launched with Super Mario Land. What a console.
What a console. One of the best consoles of all time.
Yeah, Game Boy in all its glory.
It changed the gaming landscape, and it's not the first handheld, but it was the first popular one.
Yeah, absolutely. That package with Tetris. Again, if you've not seen the Tetris movie on Apple Plus, highly recommended. But the moment that they're all at these expos showing off these arcade games and stuff, in the Boon of Arcade, and then he gets invited to the Nintendo, headquarters of Nintendo of America, goes in and they have a prototype Game Boy rigged up, and he's there for a meeting or something. He goes, "Hang on a minute." Spoilers for Tetris, I guess, 35-year-old history, and he goes, and he tries the ROM, getting it to run on the Game Boy in the prototype lab, and he says it needs some tweaking, but he essentially shows them Tetris run on the Game Boy, and that's when Nintendo are holy shit. Obviously it's all dramatized for the movie, but it's that moment of pairing them two together was just blew up. Amazing stuff.
The thing is, everyone who now sits there on the lunch break or on the train playing the game on the phone has the Game Boy to thank, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think the Game Boy is what kind of proved to the world that gaming can be something that's done on the go.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with you on that one. Beautiful. Nintendo Game Boy shout, 35 years old. How to feel old yourself. Looking in around, any of the ones around this time frame, Richie? 2002 FIFA World Cup. Shout out.
I skipped ahead a bit, but April the 24th, Metal Gear Solid. Oh, the Game Boy Color one.
Game Boy Color, not quite the same.
A minute of that, I thought it was the original Metal Gear Solid. That's a biggie, but It's hard to top the Game Boy.
Yeah, I think unless there's like another console that comes out, April, interesting time to launch. Although they launched the Switch, didn't they, back in that time as well.
But I think you get that double dip though if you do it. Like you're far away from Christmas, so people got money back in the banks, but it's not in the middle of summer. So there's that interest in the console, everyone's buying it, and then come Christmas, you get that next spike. So you get a double dip in the air.
Nice, I like it. Another shout out, actually, with you saying handheld gaming, 14 years ago today, Fruit Ninja for iOS and Android.
There you go.
Everyone's played a bit of Fruit Ninja. Ironically enough, in a reverse way, it's in arcades now. We've seen it on the big screen. Where it's basically Fruit Ninja on a massive TV, and you're swiping with your hands rather than your finger.
The ironic thing, I live quite close to some arcades, and I haven't set foot in them in years.
All right, I'll take you down at the weekend. We'll get you some 2p coins and an ice cream.
Well, it's the weekend, so let's go.
It is. Usually the ice cream man shows up in the middle of our recordings, actually. He's not been here today.
I should mention Pokemon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum came out 17 years ago.
Nice. That's excellent as well. Also Game Boy centric. But yeah, you can watch us on the Game Boy. You can watch us though on youtube.com/GamerGuildTV, and of course on your podcast platform of choice. Just search out GamerGuild Podcast, GamerGuild TV. You'll find us there. Don't forget to follow us on all socials, Facebook, Discord, Twitter, etc. And we'll be back next week. We'll be back no doubt this Thursday for a live stream, so do join us for that as well. Let us know in the Discord what you would like us to play this week. It might be more Fallout, it might not be. Saying that, I'm sure the Fallout 4 next gen update is like Thursday, so that might line up perfectly fine. But you'll see us then. We'll see you out there. My name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
We've been GamerGuild TV, and remember, folks, play whatever makes you the happiest. See you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.